Hello, my name is Rebecca Richardson, but most people call me Becky, and welcome to week 3 of the Thailand vlog. Now, it is Monday, but as you may have noticed, it is Monday night. Usually these start on the Saturday, but we had family things happening over the weekend, and then today there wasn't really anything to vlog. We were just around the pool, so I didn't think it was worth starting this morning. But I thought I'd start it now so we could talk about what I've been reading over the weekend and what's happening for the rest of the week. So over the weekend, in fact actually this morning, I finished Blue Lily Lily Blue, which means I've only got one book in the Raven Cycle series left, and I don't know how I feel about that. But just to quickly hash over my thoughts, I think I was only like 100 or so pages in the last time I talked about reading, and then I read like the entire thing over the last 3 days. As far as the book goes, I would say that it's possibly my least favourite so far. The plotline, I think, I'm very particular about plot lines. If there isn't a very exact set of actions happening that I can track in my head, I can lose track of what's happened, which to be fair is very common in books. And I would say that the plot of this one is the hardest for me to go over. Now trying to remember what happened, I remember bits of the book, but I couldn't be like, oh, this is the plot line of that book kind of thing. I did like the whole cave business. I thought that was very fun. From literally every time they went into the cave, something was happening. Even from the first time when Ganzi fell into that hole through to the end. When it first appeared at the beginning, if you've read the book, you'll know that the prologue of it is is it above, between, below or something. There's bits to it, and I was concerned that the entire book was going to be like that, because I was a bit oh, I don't know how I feel about this, but it wasn't, thankfully. But I was a bit apprehensive about the plotline to come. I didn't know whether I'd like it, but as we got into the cave stuff, it was actually really fun. I would say it's been my favourite use of the magic in the world so far, especially at the end with all of the animals when Ganzi woke them all up and all that kind of thing. I thought that was all really cool, in the cave with all of the water in it. I did like all of that because that's proper magic, and I find I haven't read about that kind of magic in a while. I've read about either very strictly fae or very strictly Shadowhunter magic. What else do I read, really? So kind of reading about sort of your mystical general magic, talking to trees and all that kind of thing. I thought it's an aesthetic that I want to read about more often. I will also say that I think Piper and Green Mantle are quite possibly two of my favourite villains I've ever read about, because they are so cliche villain couple, and I love that kind of they're that absolutely batshit crazy villain couple, and I just love it so much. Obviously they're not good people, Jesse Ditley didn't deserve what he got, but I just absolutely love that kind of villain where everything they're doing, I'm just you two are absolutely off your heads crazy, but I just really love it. I think it's so funny and actually entertaining to read about, rather than having a super serious villain. As far as the main characters go, I think my opinions of everybody stayed the same, and I think they will stay the same throughout the next book as well, other than Adam. I did appreciate Adam's arc in this. I thought that we saw a lot of character development in him. I have talked previously about how he gets on my nerves a bit, and he does. I know he has his reasons, but he gets a bit dramatic sometimes. But I did find in this book a lot of his storyline was him sort of realizing his mistakes and sort of learning from his own actions, whilst also realizing that it's okay to live with himself. There's been this theme of him being I'm unknowable, and in this book we sort of saw him think, actually, I'm not. I can have friends, people can know me. Sort of learning from his own mistakes, but at the same time learning that he's not as bad a person as he seemed to think he is. And it did make him a lot more likeable to sort of see him go on this journey that still hasn't finished. And I am really looking forward to seeing that continue, especially with the whole Ronan Adam thing that I know is coming, that I didn't think I'd have to wait 4 books for. But I know that happens eventually, so I'm looking forward to all of that as well. And I think at this point I've also decided that Blue is quite possibly my favourite ever female protagonist, which, to be fair, as far as female protagonists go in YA fantasy, I've talked about this before, I find, it's not a hard competition really, but I do really, really like her. I don't know if it's because there's less pressure on her to be this amazing big character that's part of the greater good, and she's got to be this big badass, that kind of thing. Because I find a lot of female protagonists in fantasy are expected to be these huge brave characters who are always doing the thing and defying the men and all of that. And it was quite nice just to see just a teenager just being a teenager. She's not trying to become a queen or trying to save the world. She's just there's magic trees, she's got magical friends, and just seeing her go through that, I really appreciated in the cave at the end when there's her, Mora, Artemis, Piper, the Grey Man, a few other people, I think, when they get stuck in that bit of the cave and there's like a bit of a kerfuffle happens, and she didn't suddenly know how to fight, because that's such a common thing in fantasy, where like suddenly the protagonist, who's had absolutely no experience and is like an amazing fighter and can beat all of the bad guys, and it's just so unrealistic. And I quite like the whole thing where she was just as confused, and it was just her and a switchblade, just like, what do I do? I think actually she stabbed someone once and it was described as being in the meaty bit. I just like how there's no pressure to make her this like massive badass fighting character, and she's just allowed to like be herself, because as a person, as herself, I actually think she's much more likable than all of these characters who are like blown up to be a lot bigger than they need to be, which is actually something I've found throughout all of them actually so far. Even like the male characters, they're exactly the same. There's not one of them who's like this big, broody, badass, six-pack on legs kind of character. Like, they're all just like teenage boys being teenage boys, and with all their own little woes and their own stupid ways and things. And I do like appreciate that a lot. I think it's a lot more relatable and realistic than these big characters. Also, I will mention that I'm really sad that Persephone died. I wasn't expecting that at all. I know one character who dies, well, technically, I suppose if we're following the plot, I should know like two characters who die. One who hasn't been mentioned, but my friend spoiled it. And Ganzi, I'm assuming, is going to die at some point, but I don't know if he's going to like die permanently. But I know someone who I've been told dies permanently, and I'm not happy about it, but I didn't think there'd be any in this book. And then Persephone died, and I was like, oh, because I really liked her. And also Neve, I wasn't expecting her to show up again. Part of me was like, oh, well, she just disappeared. That was a bit weird. Why did we never get like some sort of conclusion to that? But then when she showed up, I was like, no, I don't want you here. Go away again, please. So yeah, I'm apprehensive about going into the fourth book, mainly because I know things are going to go down. Obviously, it's the last book. My friend described it as angst and sadness, and I do not want angst or sadness. But I suppose, you know, last book, you have to have some of it. But I'm also a little bit, you know, sad because it's the last book in the series, and I know Call Down the Hawk comes out soon, and I don't really know what it's about. I did Google it, and it said that it's like set afterwards, which makes me hope that obviously Ronan's in it, so I don't know how they're mimicking it. It could end with everybody but Ronan dying, as far as I know. But I'm hoping that we will see some of the other characters at least like cameo in it or something, so it's not like the end, but at the same time I'm still sad about it. But I'll probably start reading that like tomorrow or something, and I'll just have to like put up with it and get through it all. The last book, in ways it's always the best because it's the most action packed, but at the same time it's always sad and it's so stressful. There was a bit in Blue Lily Lily Blue, maybe it's about 200 pages in, where I was stressed as hell. I can't even remember now what was happening, but just like thing after thing kept happening, and all of it was just through the roof stressful, and I couldn't cope with any of it. So if that's what like the entire of the fourth book's like, I think I'm just gonna like start crying now and just never stop. But yeah, that's it. I don't give very professional opinions on books. Well, that's because A, I'm not professional, and B, I don't like critique books. Like, when I'm reading them, I know a lot of people, especially sort of within the book community, read books and they think a lot in depth about like, you know, how things are developed and like themes and stuff, and I think I do on a level, but just as a writer and as somebody who likes to see certain things in books, I don't look too deeply into it, so I can't really sit here and be like, this is what I thought of how developed this was, and this is what I thought about these tropes. Like, I just read the book, which I know probably isn't good for other people to watch, but I don't know, go somewhere else. Also, another thing that I forgot to mention is that during week 2 of these videos, these vlogs, I did write 5,000 words, and I got the second to last chapter of my book done, because we haven't had a writing update because I haven't been writing, and I just completely forgot to mention that. I just sat one night and did it. So I now only have one chapter in the epilogue of the first draft up to write. I don't know when I'll get to it because it's like the end of a trilogy. It's the final chapter. It has to be this massive ordeal. It's far too much pressure for me to even think about trying to write it, but I have to do it at some point. But there, I finally mentioned that because I keep forgetting to mention it. I'm so sorry about how shaky this is. I talk about how I'm not professional, but I think that's obvious because I'm filming on my phone in my hand, so it's just like, hi, all the time. But things happening for the rest of this week. I think we're just having another pool day tomorrow, so I don't know how much I'll have to show because, like, you know, I can't show the pool, and if we're there all day, then, you know, I like to make sure that I only put slightly interesting content in these. We are definitely going to see the big Buddha monument on the hill. I'm looking for it, as if you can see, just like over there somewhere. We'll definitely be doing that, and I think my dad wants to go to this golf place at some point, so there will be things to show. It probably won't be as exciting as last week's elephants, but it'll be something, hopefully. This will of course be shorter, probably because obviously I didn't start filming Saturday, and that's like Monday now that I'm starting it, and either we'll finish these on Friday or I'll film like us travelling home, but I don't know because we travel at like 1 o'clock in the morning and it's like 13 hours of flights and God knows how many hours at airport, so I might be far too grumpy and tired to pick up a camera and be like, hi, I'm awake. So yeah, we'll see. But I think that's everything I have to say for now. Libby isn't here for once, but she'll probably be in it tomorrow. Don't worry, she'll be here. She always likes to cameo. But for now, I think that's it. Please have some of my view. Wow. But yeah, that's it for now. I've been talking for 14 minutes. Oh dear. I guess if I don't have anything else to show, I suppose this is the length of a vlog in itself, isn't it? Oh well, I will see you tomorrow. Libby, would you like to eat that chicken out? It's like McDonald's.
Yeah.
But with more chicken.
Yeah, okay. What?
Do you like the rain?
I do, but it scares me sometimes. Not going out like this.
Good morning, Libby.
Morning.
Today is Wednesday.
Tuesday.
Wednesday. Yeah, it's Wednesday today. I don't know what we're doing today. We're either going shopping or we're just like hanging around.
I can't
So-
hang around because I want to play Sims.
Libby wants to play Sims, so we might be hanging around. So I don't know how much we will film today because obviously when there's not much going on, there isn't really much to talk about. But we are later in the week. We're going to see the Big Budget, as I mentioned, and I think we're going to a restaurant tonight or like tomorrow.
We're going to Sabai tonight.
But we're doing that, which I can talk about. Libby just came in to say hello, but she might get bored now because I'm going to give a reading update. So I don't know if you want to sit there and listen to me talk about that.
I'm gonna.
Okay. So quick reading update. I read 100 pages of The Raven King last night. I started it. I'm really enjoying it so far. I will say it's already really tense. I have like a list of notes I want to talk about like over the series when I finish. Just like really easy, simple notes. And one of the things on it is the like horror imagery, which like might sound a bit over dramatic to call it horror, but like I don't read horror, I don't watch horror, so anything that's slightly scary I'm like, oh my god, this is horror. But yeah, I'm finding it tense. I'm finding some of it quite scary. I don't like Ronan's dreams about the mask, and I'm concerned the mask is going to be like a storyline because I've been waiting for it to be a storyline since like book 2, and I don't want that because it scares me. But it's all been very tense so far, and I know it's only the beginning and it's only going to get like a 10 times worse as the story goes on. So this last week could just be me being very stressed and crying over fictional characters, which wouldn't be a new thing, would it, Libby?
No.
I just thought I'd pop in to say that, yeah, 100 pages in, very scared. Also, Gansey knows he's going to die. I didn't think that was a thing. I'm like kind of frustrated about it because for how long have all the other characters been like, we can't tell him, we've got to keep this to ourselves and deal with our woes because we can't let him know, but he knows, he already knows. And I just... everybody's stressing about not telling him and like whether they should tell him, but he already knows, and it's just like, it's not fun. I'm not having a good time. As soon as that came out I was like, what? You know that. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing how things progress because things are getting like slowly creepier in a way that I don't like, but like I do like. I'm glad I don't like it, if that makes sense. So yeah, 100 pages in, like 380 something pages to go. Libby, wish me luck.
No.
Hello, it's me again, obviously, but we were literally filming a moment ago, but I thought I'd lie down so it looks like we've had a change of scenery, even though we haven't. But I forgot to mention that yesterday this channel passed 100 subscribers. Yay! So I just thought I'd mention that and say thank you to everybody who has subscribed and watched and commented and things, because it just means so much to me. Even though it probably seems like a tiny number, it's like massive to me. So yeah, thank you for that. Yeah. I don't have my sunglasses, so I'm just kind of squinting. Also, it just started raining, so I don't know how long we're gonna get till it rains. It is Thursday morning. The rain's getting heavy. We'll be back in a second, but oh well. I think the plans for today are just to go shopping. I think that's literally it. Also, I get my AS level results today. I think they come in about 3 o'clock my time, so pretty stressed about that. I feel like I'm just waiting around all day to get those results. Obviously, it's only AS. If you don't know how the system works, AS results are just kind of like the one before A level, which is like our final in England. It's like the final results you get for qualifications before university. AS is like the year before the big ones. So thankfully the only thing they really count towards is my self-esteem, but like it doesn't mean that I feel any better about myself. I didn't do any reading yesterday. I used the time I would spend reading to pack because we're leaving Saturday, so I wanted to get ahead on that. And I also did a bit of editing for the week 2 vlog of these. So yeah, I do need to catch up a bit with that because I want it done like when we get home, because I have to reread City of Bones for my coursework, which I need done in like the 3 weeks before I go back to college. The rain's actually quite nice now. So yeah, I guess I don't have too much to say. I just thought I'd mention the A-level results and the fact I haven't read anything. Yeah, I'm only freaking out slightly about AS. So, just a tad bit. As far as goals for it go, I'd like an A in psychology. I studied psychology, sociology, and English language. English language, I'm expecting like a D. If I get anything above a D, I'll be happy because one, I'm bad at the subject, two, my teacher was bad at teaching. Sociology, I would like anything above a C. I'm expecting a C. Anything above would be brilliant. Psychology, I want an A because I feel like that's the most likely one I could do that in, but I will settle for a B because there was a few questions that I felt like I didn't write enough on. But yeah, that's I just basically have that to stress about for the rest of the day. It's 11 o'clock now, so I've got a good 4 hours until they're supposed to be out. I don't even know if the times are right. It might be later tonight, but we'll see. What do you think of the rain?
I kind of like it until Mum and Dad said that we saw lightning and now I'm scared. Becky. Oh, I feel big footsteps, Becky. Do you feel big footsteps? Ready? Jet attack!
Oh my god.
Once, give the elbow straight. Twice.
Hello. It is night now on Thursday. I just thought I'd pop in to say that I got my results in the end. So yeah, results are in. I got A in English, which I wasn't expecting, English language, a B in sociology, and a C in psychology, which wasn't really what I wanted in psychology, but I wasn't expecting the A in English, so I'll allow the two of them to swap places, I guess. But it's only my AS level, so it doesn't really count towards anything but like my thoughts, I guess, and what my teacher thinks. Next year is what really matters. But yeah, that's that out of the way for now, until I go back to college in 3 weeks, yikes. I don't think I've got anything else to say. Not now, anyway. We leave Saturday, like Saturday afternoon, I think. I'll either film us going home or I won't. Probably not, because like our first flight is like early hours of the morning, and it's like 24 hours if you include the airport time in between, so I'm gonna be so tired. So we might finish this tomorrow instead of me filming into Saturday, But we'll see. I do worry that this has been short the same as week 2. I'm editing that now, and I feel like they're both really short in comparison to week 1, but oh well. I'm hoping to finish the Raven cycle before we leave, but I honestly don't know if I will now, just because I didn't read anything yesterday. I've been reading like 100 pages a day, but I didn't read anything yesterday, which means I'm still only like 100 pages into the Raven King, and I'm going to read tonight, so I'll probably get another 100 pages done tonight, but that still leaves me with about, what, like 280 something pages, which a lot of people could do in a day, but I don't know if I can do that by Saturday afternoon. Bearing in mind I only tend to read on a night, so tomorrow will probably be the only time I get to do more reading, depending on what time we get out back, because we're out, so yeah, I'll probably still be reading on the plane and things, so this will probably end before I finish the Raven King, which should be incredibly unsatisfactory to watch me read an entire series and then not get my final feelings on it. If that's the case, then I will talk about what I've thought so far, like, in, like, when I end this, even if I haven't finished it, we'll go over everything then, because I'll have read, like, the majority. I've read, like, 3.5 books at that point, and then I'll quickly go over what I actually thought of, like, the end of the series, like, what I thought of the end of the Raven King, in the, like, chatty video that'll be going up in August, because I haven't done an August one yet, so yeah, if that's what happens anyway. But yeah, I just thought I'd pop in and catch everybody up. I think that's it. Do I have anything else to say? No. I have already seen all of the horrific edits that come from that one yeehaw line. And I wondered how long it would be till I had to see it with my own eyes. Although, to be fair, this isn't the first yeehaw. Everybody was like, oh, at some point Adam mouths yeehaw, that it's like a thing, and now we make edits about it. But in, like, was it like the first or the second book? Gansey also sadly says yeehaw. So are they all cowboys in the end? What day is it?
It's Friday.
It's Friday. What day do we go home?
Tomorrow.
What are your plans for our last day?
I'm gonna get my bed quilt, get my pillows, sit downstairs with like 10 cups of tea, and binge on the TV shows that came out whilst I've been away.
Great plan. And what are you gonna do today?
I'm gonna go to the pool.
Yeah. Are you gonna go in the pool?
Yeah.
Are you gonna do some reading?
No.
For this vlog, the reading vlog? You gonna read?
No.
She's not gonna read. I'm gonna read. I got 160 pages read yesterday, so I'm aiming for 100 today, and then hopefully I might be able to finish the Raven King before we leave, but I don't know. I don't know, Libby.
You don't know.
So I have less than 100 pages left of the Raven King. Everything's just about to start. Unfortunately, I can't keep reading because we're about to go out, but like, I'm just up to the bit where Gansey was sat on the roof with, I call her Gwenllian, but I'm fairly certain that's not how it's pronounced. And then the like deer thing appears, and then he just got in his car to follow the bird. So I know that I'm like everything's about to happen, and there's less than 100 pages, and so much has to happen in that time, and I'm really stressed about it. But hopefully I can get it finished before we go, but like I kind of want to just sit and get it done now, but I can't because we're going out and I'm like stressed. But yeah, that's where I'm at for now, so yeah, I'm just panicking. So I finished the Raven King. Thoughts. I did have notes on my phone that I was going to look at, but I think I'm just gonna spew from the moment. I literally just finished it. I will say, thankfully, I'm not as sad as I thought I would be. Things weren't as dramatic as I thought they would be, which in one way is a good thing, in one way is like slightly disappointing, but like I don't feel disappointed. Talking about the actual ending of The Raven King and the book itself, I will say that I was very stressed for the majority of the book. I was like constantly on edge, which is a good thing. You want to feel things, I guess, when reading. And I did very nearly cry when Gansey died, just for a second, but then I didn't. And then I also nearly cried when Noah like slipped from time or whatever. I will say that I was expecting that to be a lot more dramatic. Like, if I didn't know that Noah died in this, I would have thought that he hadn't died. I would have like been very confused, and I would have been like, what happened to Noah? And I'm still a bit like, what actually happened to Noah? Like, I felt there wasn't really much of a conclusion to that, and if I hadn't already been told that he died, and like I read it and I was like, oh, so he's just died, that's when that happens. I would have, like, if I didn't know that, I'd be like really confused right now about like where that had ended and what conclusion there was supposed to be to Noah's story, which, to be honest, I still don't know what kind of conclusion that was supposed to be, but that might just be me being stupid, I don't know. However, on the topic of like the entire series, I will say that this has actually been quite different to anything I've read before. I thought going into it, I knew what I was going to get out of it. I thought it was going to kind of be a bit of a like a Twilighty vibe of like, you know, small American town, just kind of lighthearted, nothing big really happening. I wasn't at all expecting all of like the horror imagery in it. That mask, I'm so glad that mask wasn't a plot line. I'm concerned it's going to be a plot line in the Dreamer trilogy because it was brought up often enough for me to assume it was going to be a plot line at some point every time that came up, and I just hated it so much. And Noah's freaky. I don't care what anybody says. But like 40% of the time he's like cute and dorky. The rest of the time he is freaky as anything. Like, I would have exercised him on sight. It really messed with my head. There were so many bits that I was reading and I was like, this is why I don't read horror books, because you're really freaky. But I do appreciate that. I think horror imagery isn't something that I've actually read before. I've read so much like YA and so much like hard-hitting YA. Like Throne of Glass, Sarah J. Maas is the kind of thing that I'd expect something like that from, but still this was genuinely the scariest series I've ever read. Does that make me a massive wimp if I'm saying The Raven Cycle is the scariest thing I've read? Oh dear. I am a bit concerned about how that's all going to translate onto screen though in the TV show. Like, every time that there was something freaky happening, I was like, I don't want to watch this. The same as with all of the descriptions of like the Hornets when Gansey died like the first time, because the first time, even when that was described, I was like, I don't want to see this on screen because you know they're going to hit us with some horrifying flashbacks of a child covered in hornets, and I don't want any of that. So yeah, that was definitely unexpected but interesting, and I did enjoy it when I wasn't like cowering from my own book. Overall, I'd say the plotline wasn't the most like dramatic, interesting plotline I've ever read. However, I will say that it was like still exciting. Like, I would say it's probably one of my favourite plot lines because I feel there's such like a pressure at the moment to make all like even like YA, like people are always like doing things for a massive purpose. There's always like really hard-hitting things taking place. You're crying all the time. People are being tortured. It's like always really dark. And this wasn't dark. It was like towards the end it definitely got dark and there were bits in it that were definitely dark. But the overall theme wasn't entirely dark. I was like excited to read it because I was excited to escape into this like happy little world of magic in some random town in Virginia. Like, it had that light-hearted feel to it as well as the creepy bits, which I liked. I will say that there were a few bits in the plotline like over the whole series that definitely like weren't what I was expecting them to be. I think I set my bar a bit high for some bits, like the end of every book. I've come to expect the end of the books I read to be like huge and dramatic and like me to be like crying at the end of every book I read. And like there wasn't, I think, like I nearly cried at the end of The Raven King, but I didn't. And even that was like something kind of happened and then we solved it really quick and then everything was good, which sometimes is definitely good to read. But I think I kept expecting like towards the end of each book I'd get really scared and be like, oh my god, I'm nearly there and something's gonna happen. And then when like things happened but not quite to the level I was expecting, I was a bit like, oh, was that it? Like every time. But it still wasn't like anticlimactic. It wasn't like Breaking Dawn bad. It was like, oh, this is something. It's just not quite what I was expecting. However, I think I've been expecting more like above what this kind of end of the YA genre tends to give. I think it's mainly because I've been reading a lot of like I mentioned, Sarah J. Maas, that kind of thing where it's like we're going to kill 15 characters in 3 pages, that kind of thing. And so going into it expecting that kind of thing, and then I have to keep reminding myself that this isn't that, end of the spectrum of YA, I guess. It's like further down. We're not quite at that level. But like I said, in its way, that was a good thing as well, because sometimes you don't want to be reading about death and torture every 5 seconds. Sometimes you just want to be reading about, you know, teenagers galloping through a forest looking for a magic king. So yeah, I will say at the moment, I think that this is quite possibly on my list of favourites. I feel like I say this and then the test actually comes a few months later, because sometimes in the moment I'm like, this is great, this is the best thing I've ever read, I'm going to remember these characters forever. And then a few months down the line, I'm like, oh yeah, that was cool, but like, you know, I'm not like, I don't instantly want to reread it. I'm not like fumbling over finding all of the memes about the characters on Tumblr, you know. When I reach that point where I start forgetting names and quotes and I'm like, oh yeah, that was a thing. So I think in a few months I'll be able to say whether or not this is one that will stick with me. However, now I do think it will be, because it's the kind of thing that I read when I was like younger. Like if like 14-year-old me had picked this up, I would have like absolutely been all over it, kind of thing. And I do think this is one that will stick with me, especially since that's not the end of the series. Obviously, the Dreamer trilogy starts in November, so I don't know how long to wait for that. I do feel quite lucky in comparison to everybody who read the last one in, like, what, 2016, and then had to wait all this time. So yeah, I'm not going to sit here now and be like, best thing I've ever read. However, I did definitely enjoy it a lot. As far as the characters go, I would say that this has been a book where, like, I've actually liked everybody. Usually, there is at least one character who's, like, a main character who I just, like, hate with every ounce of my being, who I'm supposed to like, but there wasn't in this. Like, I loved all of them. I thought Blue was a really great protagonist because she was realistic, which I've touched on earlier, and even all of the lads were as well. Obviously, like, they weren't completely realistic, like Adam talks to trees and Ronan, like, pulls monsters out of his dreams and stuff, but like, as people, they felt, as a teenager, they felt more realistic to me. Usually a lot of YA, I kind of aged the characters up in my head. I'm like Six of Crows. As soon as it was like, Casbrecker 17, I was like, nah, he's not. I kind of naturally age them up in my head because they don't act at all like their age. However, in this, I was more aware that they are all supposed to be like 16, 17, because you kind of get that from them more, and they all feel a lot more innocent in the way of like things were happening and they were like, oh my god, all the time, rather than like taking it on like an older character would, I guess, in some cases. So yeah, that was good. I was also really happy with Adam's storyline. I think earlier on I really didn't like him, to be honest. At the beginning I was like, oh my god, you do my head in, and he really did. But I am very glad that we saw that kind of like arc that he went on of like, not redemption, it wasn't a redemption arc, but it was like healing. He kind of had a whole process, and you sort of saw him delve more into himself and realize things about himself that he needed to change, but also things about himself that were positive. Whereas earlier in it, he was just kind of like, I am unknowable, I am this. Like, he kind of realized that actually people do like him, and he doesn't have to be like his dad, and there are all these other aspects to Adam Parrish other than him being unknowable or whatever. And so I was really happy with like where we ended with him actually being happy and almost like satisfied, which I thought was good, because towards the beginning he did definitely just have far too much like internal conflict going on for one person to handle. But I do think that's definitely a good thing, because those sort of things where you can focus in on a character and be like, oh, they started off like this with all these issues and now they're like this, shows just how like three-dimensional a character is, and they were all like that. Like, there wasn't one character where it felt like they didn't go through any growth. Like, everybody sort of had an arc that they followed that definitely showed like change in them, mainly for the better, which is always great. Sometimes you read books where the characters just have nothing to them whatsoever. They have like 2 personality traits and they just stick like that, and there's no, you can't relate to them in any way because there's not even a mold there. It's like, it's just like holding up a piece of paper with a smiley face on it. It's like not the same thing at all. And so I did like the fact that every character was relatable and they had something to them that was realistic and you could like see yourself in them. For me, I think the most relatable out of them was definitely Gansey, which wasn't something I went into expecting. Honestly, I knew like nothing about the characters going into it whatsoever. I think, what did I know going into it? I knew that Ronan and Adam ended up together. I knew Noah died. I also knew that Noah was dorky and cute because he's like my friend's favourite. That was it. That was basically all I knew. But I will say that Gansey was definitely the one that I found the most relatable for like a whole bunch of reasons. But I don't know if I touched him in the way that I usually do. There's usually there's like a character and I'm like, I like you, you're a cool person, I can see you in me slightly, relatable. And if that character is male and straight, then I'm instantly like, you're my husband. But that wasn't the case here, which in a way I quite like, because sometimes I find it gets exhausting when like every new book it's like, a new random fictional boyfriend kind of thing. I quite enjoyed just being able to like enjoy him as a character and like learn lessons from him and how his story went, and sort of being able to apply things to my life and learn things from it myself. I also think the series overall did prove something to me. There was a time when I would have found Adam the most relatable because of all of these like conflicts he has going on in his own head, and there's places he went to that I knew that if I'd read this when I was younger, he would have been the character I would have instantly attached myself to. But now I'm kind of at a point where I don't need that. I don't need to like see myself in someone going through that kind of thing, and I can sort of see myself more instead in the more positive versions of myself, which wasn't something I realised until I read this series. And I was like, definitely Adam would have been the character that I would have instantly connected to, but it wasn't. It was Gansey, and it was kind of seeing something sort of come full circle for me as well. So I do think if the series sticks with me, that will definitely be one reason for the actual lessons I've learned about myself reading this, which probably sounds really deep because like I feel like we're getting a bit deep, but that was something that I wasn't expecting going into it either. But overall, I am really glad that I read the series, and honestly, I can't wait to go on the Tumblr tag and like unblock all of the tags and just like envelop myself in the world of the Raven Cycle memes. That's like my favourite bit about finishing a book series. I can't wait for that. I feel sorry for everybody who follows me because they're just going to be bombarded with random Raven Cycle memes for at least a week. But yeah, I'm glad I finished the series on camera. We didn't have to like turn this over, and I should stop talking because this has been on for 15 minutes. This is a long vlog. The middle one wasn't, but I'm thinking, bearing in mind the first thing I filmed was like the same length. This is, oh boy. Yeah, I think that's everything I have to say for the series. I feel like I never say enough because I'm not like critical. I'm not like, this is what I thought of this, and that's what I thought that. I'll make like points on the writing, which I have, like I said, the horror imagery, and also just Maggie Stavata's writing in general. And so beyond things like that like I actually remember in points about character, I don't tend to sit here and be like, this is what I thought of my critique, and this is what I think about how developed this is and whatever, because like I'm not professional. I don't know what to say. See, I think that's the end of my wrap up, I guess, of the Raven Cycle and my incredibly crappy review. That's just me ranting. I don't have a script. This is just, it's pathetic, isn't it, really? I think I'm going to end the vlog here because, you know, I guess we're like, you know, this is the end of the holiday now. I finished the Raven Cycle, so I can end it here, I guess. Thank you if you've watched all 3 of these somehow and managed to make it through, especially this one, if it's as long as I'm expecting it to be. And I really hope nobody was expecting a really in-depth review at the end. That just hasn't happened. But thank you for being here for this and coming on this 3-week journey that has taken longer for the videos to come out because they're coming out every odd week. Thank you to Maggie Stavata for making me go on a wild ride of introspection that I wasn't expecting. And yeah, I'll see you very soon. Bye!